The slap echoed before the accusations even formed. It cracked across the marble like a snapped bone, sharp and final. Every conversation in the grand atrium froze. Forks hovered above plates. Crystal glasses stopped mid-air. The string trio faltered, one violin bow dropping with a startled squeak. No one asked her name. But the way she stood, still, erect, eyes unfazed even as blood bloomed from her lower lip, made them pause. Just for a moment. Then came the murmurs, the rising hunger of judgment. "You need to leave. Now." Lena Arliston's voice carried the kind of inherited authority that needed no title. Her manicured hand, still raised from the impact, trembled only slightly as she turned to the crowd. "This woman snuck into our donor gala, probably through the service corridor. I want her removed." The crowd surged forward like a school of sharks catching the scent of blood. The woman stood rooted. A simple black sheath dress hugged her frame, clean lines, no labels. Her skin glowed under the golden sconces, but the room only saw absence. Of name, of invitation, of explanation. Caleb Arliston, Lena's eldest son and acting chairman of Arliston Development, stepped beside his mother, straightening his cufflink with the lazy precision of someone who believed himself untouchable. "Let's not make a scene," he said to no one in particular, then louder, to everyone. "She does not belong here." Guests turned. Eyes scanned her shoes, her clutch, her silence. "She's filming. Check her bag. Look at her. She's just standing there like she owns the place." Someone laughed, brittle and unsure. The hall brimmed with camera phones now. Streaming apps opened. Thumbs swiped. Live streams titled things like, "Who even is she?" and "Caught at the Prescott Gala" multiplied by the second. Across the floor, the museum's director wrung his hands, pale beneath the gallery lights. His eyes scanned for security. The donors were getting restless. The woman blinked once. Blood pooled again at the edge of her mouth. She opened her clutch slowly. No sudden movements. No reaction to the phones pointed like weapons. She retrieved a tissue and dabbed her lip. Her stillness was unnerving. Lena took a sharp step forward, her heels striking the floor like gavel blows. "This is harassment," she declared. "Security!" A ripple moved through the room. Two guards emerged from a side hallway, tall, uniformed, unsure. They moved toward her, but not too quickly. Something about the woman's posture made them hesitate. She looked at them without fear, without challenge, just observation. "I will need a phone call," she said. The tone was quiet, unapologetic, not a request. Caleb laughed and gestured broadly. "You hear that? She thinks this is law and order." More laughter. But it was nervous now. The woman's phone buzzed inside her clutch. Once, twice, then again. A tight sequence of calls, each vibration humming against her palm like a warning. She did not answer. Instead, she adjusted the strap of her clutch and looked straight at the museum director. "I asked to speak to the person in charge." The director stiffened. His name was Henry Dorsey, and he had held this position for 13 years. He had welcomed senators, oil magnates, and 3 first ladies to events in this building. He had never once been unsure of whom he could afford to offend. Tonight, something shifted. One of the guards leaned forward and caught a glimpse of the woman's phone screen as it lit up again. He froze. His voice, when it came, was low. Careful. "Sir." "What is it?" the director asked. The guard turned the phone slightly. Enough for Henry Dorsey to see the name on the incoming call. Admiral Jeanette Russell, NORAD. The director paled. Lena Arliston stepped forward, emboldened by confusion. "I demand she be removed immediately. This is a violation of—" "Ma'am," the guard interrupted, his voice firmer now. "You may want to stand back." Another call. This time the name glowed in stark white letters across the screen. White House Office, Urgent. The woman tapped once. The screen shifted to a secure interface, the kind that only government devices carry. Retina scan. Pulse verification. She turned the device toward Henry Dorsey. His knees nearly buckled. A sharp intake of breath rippled across the closest guests. Amira Langston. United States Strategic Technologies Advisor. Clearance level, Delta Black. The seal of the executive office pulsed faintly at the top corner of the screen. Someone near the back whispered, "Jesus Christ." Another added, "That's not just government, that's war room level." The woman, Amira, took one calm step forward, blood still dotting her tissue. "I attempted to avoid a scene." Her voice carried now, not because it was loud, but because no one else dared to speak. "I arrived quietly. I was invited quietly. I intended to donate quietly. But you chose performance." The museum director swallowed. I had no idea, Ms. Langston. Your invitation must have—" Amira cut him off gently. "It was processed through the Office of National Science and Defense. Your assistant received confirmation 2 weeks ago." Lena's voice was brittle glass. "This is clearly a fabrication. Anyone can fake a badge. Anyone can pretend." "You had me escorted toward a dessert table," Amira said, eyes never leaving her. "Then struck me. On camera. In front of 167 witnesses." Her phone buzzed once more. She answered it without turning away. "Yes," she said. "I am still here." A pause. Then, "No. I will not need extraction. But inform the secretary that the Arliston family has made a public error." A longer pause. "Yes. I understand the implications. And yes, I will respond accordingly." She ended the call. Caleb Arliston had gone pale. His Instagram live stream, still rolling from the breast pocket of his tuxedo, now had over 75,000 viewers. The comments had flipped. "That's Amira Langston? She's legit. Look it up. Dead. They're dead. This is better than Succession." A woman who had been filming from the mezzanine abruptly lowered her phone. No one was laughing now. Amira reached into her clutch once more and withdrew a folded sheet of paper. She placed it gently on the museum director's podium, then stepped back. "50 million, she said. "My office processed the wire transfer this morning." Henry Dorsey stared down at the donation confirmation, his mouth dry. "To fund permanent exhibition space for underrepresented American engineers and scientists, starting with women of color." Silence cracked like a fault line across the marble. "I tried to tell you I belonged here," Amira said. Then she turned toward the door. And for the first time since the slap, no one stood in her way. The corridor outside the main gallery felt colder, quieter. Amira's heels struck the stone in rhythm, unhurried, unfazed. Behind her, the murmurs had begun to shift, no longer hostile but disoriented, like a herd adjusting to the sudden scent of smoke. She did not look back. A young man in a navy blazer jogged to catch up, nearly tripping over his own ambition. His lanyard read Ethan Reynolds, Deputy Events Coordinator. He cleared his throat twice before speaking. "Ms. Langston, I just wanted to say, on behalf of the museum, we are profoundly sorry. The Arlistons, they don't speak for all of us." She slowed, not stopped. Ethan's voice cracked at the edge of shame. "It wasn't supposed to happen like that." Amira turned her gaze toward him. He flinched, not from anger, but from the weight of restraint in her eyes. "Nothing like this ever is," she said. Then she continued on, leaving his apology behind like a dried leaf caught in wind. The service elevator waited at the end of the hallway, guarded now by 2 security officers who stood ramrod straight. One of them, a younger Latina woman whose name tag read M. Vargas, stared at Amira a second longer than protocol allowed. Vargas snapped to attention. Ma'am, clearance verified. Your car is waiting underground. May I escort? No, Amira replied gently. But thank you. The elevator opened. She entered alone. As the doors closed, her fingers brushed the edge of her lip again. The sting was still there. The blood had dried, but the feeling hadn't. It never did. She stood motionless as the elevator descended. Floor by floor. Reputation peeling away from perception. In the mirrored panel, her reflection didn't look like power, or vengeance, or fear. It looked like composure stretched over bruised legacy. The car was already idling near the loading dock. A matte black Cadillac with bulletproof doors and mirrored windows. The driver, an older man with posture like steel, stepped out and opened the rear door. Ms. Langston? Amira nodded. Evening, Ray. Rough crowd, he murmured, eyes forward. She exhaled the closest thing to a laugh she'd let herself that night. You have no idea. Inside the car, the world dimmed. Leather seats, reinforced silence. 2 phones, one secured, one personal. She unlocked the secure device first. Notifications rolled in like falling dominoes. State Department, confirmed delay on Arctic protocols. NSF, emergency funding request, cyber defense research leak. White House scheduling, POTUS invites you to Tuesday's roundtable. She skimmed them without urgency. None of it surprised her. The ripple effect had already begun. Her personal phone vibrated again. The name on the screen glowed brighter than any alert. Nia Langston. She paused, then answered. Hi. Nia's voice came through half-choked with breath. You okay? I'm fine. Mom, the internet is... Her daughter exhaled, voice shaking with more anger than fear. They hit you. They hit you on camera, and they streamed it like it was a game. I know. They called you a fraud, said you smelled like the subway. I wanted to go down there myself. Nia. Silence. I handled it. Another pause, softer this time. I know you did, Nia said. I shouldn't have let you go alone. That's not your job, Amira said. I'm your daughter. That's exactly why. Amira's eyes softened. Through the tinted window, the Manhattan skyline blurred past in streaks of gold and steel. The city never looked ashamed of itself. It just kept moving, unbothered by its own contradictions. I'll be home in an hour, she said. Did you eat? Not really. I was watching the stream. Then set the table. We'll eat together. When she ended the call, the car fell quiet again. Ray glanced at her through the rearview mirror. You sure you don't want to reroute? Press wants a comment. CNN's waiting at your hotel. No interviews, Amira replied. Not yet. Ray nodded once. Copy that. Amira turned her attention to the envelope resting beside her. The one she hadn't opened since receiving it that morning. On the front, handwritten ink in thick script. Langston. Personal. Confidential. Inside was a single page. No letterhead. No signature. Only a quote, typed in 12-point serif. They'll never give you the seat. You have to bring your own chair and build the table around it. Below the quote, 3 words typed in bold. Target confirmed. Proceed. She folded the paper slowly, deliberately, then lit it with the built-in flame sensor tucked beneath the console. The flame rose, then vanished, leaving behind only the metal taste of truth. The gala had been the test. Tonight proved the rules had not changed. She was still seen as an anomaly, a disruption, a ghost in their house. But now the entire board of Arlston Development had seen her bleed, and they had seen her not break. That would be useful. Very useful. Ray turned onto Riverside Drive. Ms. Langston? Yes? Just heard on the scanner. 2 museum trustees just resigned. Amira did not smile, but the corner of her lip twitched. Send flowers to their wives, she said, and send statements to their alma maters. A simple press note, something about civic responsibility. You want a quote attached? She thought a moment, then nodded. Power is not in the punishment. It's in the choice to withhold it. Ray grinned behind the wheel. They're gonna hate that. I hope they do. Outside the window, the city shimmered like nothing had ever gone wrong. Amira did not go home. Not yet. The Cadillac pulled into the underground garage of a nondescript office building on 12th and Varick. No signage, no receptionist, just concrete and silence. The building was listed under a historical preservation foundation, but only 2 people had ever seen the top floor in the last 6 months. Ray opened her door. You're early. I planned to be. He didn't question it. Inside, the elevator required triple authentication. Thumbprint, iris scan, voice match. The door opened not with a ding, but a whisper. Upstairs, fluorescent lighting hummed low. Clean, cold air. A bank of digital displays lined the northern wall, satellite feeds, economic indicators, encrypted communications hubs. This was not her home. It was her ledger. She walked past the surveillance banks and into a private conference room. He was already waiting for her. A man in his 60s, tall, impeccably dressed, the kind of man who looked like he had once run the CIA and still knew where all the bodies were buried. His name was Robert Dwyer. His code name was older than her career. He stood when she entered but didn't speak. She sat first. Then, it went as expected. Robert folded his hands, eyes unreadable. I watched the stream, he said. You always do. He tilted his head slightly. They underestimated you. They always do. You bled. I always do. She poured herself a glass of water from the decanter on the table. No shaking in her fingers. No bruises on her voice. Did you initiate contact? He asked. No, she said. They struck first. He allowed himself a small nod. Then it's clean. Amira leaned back. The wall behind her held no art, just a single plaque, black steel on darker concrete, bearing the motto of the Strategic Oversight Office. We do not knock. We are the lock. Robert tapped his finger twice on the tabletop. They are scrambling, he said. 4 resignations. The Arliston family's legal team already initiated crisis management protocols. Stock movement froze within 45 minutes. Their board is requesting a private audience. She let that sit for a moment. Then, decline, politely. Offer a public roundtable. Minority founders only. They will not agree to that. I know. She stood and walked to the screen panel on the far wall. Tapped a few commands. A portfolio opened. Assets, holdings, pipelines, litigation risks. All tied to Arlston development. All one thread away from unraveling. They thought I was a liability, she said. They saw a woman in the wrong room wearing the wrong dress. They don't understand that I was the one who built the walls. Robert didn't respond. She turned to face him. Do we have a replacement ready? For which position? Chair of their board. He blinked once. You're not requesting one? I'm not requesting anything, she said. But I will nominate. He opened his folder and pulled out a photo. A woman in her 40s, dark-skinned, silver in her hair, a degree from MIT, 3 startups, 2 exits. Nicole Avery, he said. Amira nodded. Offer her the transition package. My firm will back the acquisition quietly, through the holding shell in Baltimore. You want it to look grassroots? I want it to be grassroots, but they'll never admit she earned it if they know I planted the seed. Robert closed the folder. What about the gala itself? Amira hesitated. I want the footage preserved, she said. Not scrubbed. He raised an eyebrow. Even the slap? Especially the slap. He didn't ask why. She left the room without looking back. Downstairs, Ray stood by the car, engine still warm. Another stop? She paused by the open door. The wind had picked up, cool and dry, brushing past her collarbone like a whisper of winter. Yes, she said. Brooklyn. Ray did not question it. The drive took 20 minutes, past the river, over the bridge, through neighborhoods that did not care about donor galas or marble staircases. The streets narrowed. Streetlights flickered overhead. Amira's gaze followed the cracks in the pavement like fault lines in history. The car stopped in front of a brick building with rusted mailboxes and a flickering buzzer. I'll wait, Ray said. Amira climbed the stairs without knocking. Inside apartment 3A, the walls were lined with books and unframed photographs. A kettle whistled in the kitchen. An old jazz tune crackled from a speaker that had seen better decades. The woman who opened the door wore a faded Harvard sweatshirt and glasses perched on her head. Her name was Diane Sloan. She had once taught Amira constitutional law in a lecture hall filled with men who had never believed a black woman could write defense strategy for the nation. Diane didn't smile, but she stepped aside. I saw the footage, she said. I figured you did. You let it happen. I needed it to happen. Diane poured tea, added lemon, no sugar. Still hurts, she said. Amira sipped. It's supposed to. They sat in silence for a long while. Finally, Diane leaned back and exhaled. So what now? I nominate Nicole Avery. I dismantle the Arleston pipeline. I reallocate their contracts. I build something they cannot corrupt. Diane looked at her, old pride and newer fear tugging at opposite corners of her face. They'll come for you harder now. They already were. Diane's eyes narrowed. You're tired. Amira finished the tea. I'm not allowed to be tired. Not until this machine breaks for good. And after? I haven't decided. Diane reached across the table and placed a hand on hers. You don't have to decide tonight. Amira didn't answer. Outside, the street was silent. A delivery bike zipped past. Someone shouted in Spanish down the block. Life went on. The world turned. And inside a third-floor apartment in a forgotten corner of Brooklyn, the woman they had tried to erase sat quietly, still bleeding, still unbroken. She had not come to burn down the house. She had come to rewire its foundation. The committee room smelled like dust and old paper, the kind of space where secrets outlived their keepers. 12 chairs circled the center table beneath the amber light of recessed fixtures. Portraits of long-dead senators loomed over the panel like silent jurors. Amira sat alone at the head of the table. She had not been summoned. She had called the meeting herself. 3 hours prior, her office issued a quiet directive. Classified briefings moved, scheduling blocks rearranged, 3 ranking officials rerouted mid-flight. No explanation. Just one name in bold. Langston. Now they filtered in, one by one. Men with silver hair and heavy rings. Women whose smiles had weathered 3 presidencies. Staffers in charcoal suits whispering behind folders. A dozen names that built infrastructure, deployed troops, authorized bailouts. Some glanced at her and nodded politely. Others avoided her entirely. She noticed, but she did not return the gestures. Senator Elijah Wakefield was the first to speak. He leaned back, Southern drawl sharpened for federal hearings. Ms. Langston, it's not customary for non-elected officials to— You're not under oath, Senator, she said evenly. You're under observation. That silenced the rest. Amira slid a tablet across the polished oak. It lit up with the Arleston Development Report. Offshore accounts. Falsified housing reports. Racial redlining patterns dating back 2 decades. Then another file. then another. Layers peeled back in quiet sequence. Wakefield cleared his throat. These are internal matters, procurement and zoning decisions at the state level. Amira didn't blink. And yet every one of these contracts received federal funding. He bristled. With congressional oversight. You approved 27 of them. Murmurs. Across the table, Senator Rachel Mahoney spoke next. Her voice was clipped, tactical. What exactly do you want from this committee? Amira stood. Behind her, a screen unfolded from the ceiling. Footage from the gala played silently. Lena Arliston's hand mid-strike, Caleb's dismissive glare, the guards circling like sentries around a presumed threat. This is what unchecked power looks like, Amira said. Not just in marble halls or gala staircases, in contracts, in funding, in silence. Mahoney narrowed her eyes. You think we didn't see it? I think you saw it for years and chose not to act. Another silence. Then, and now? Amira stepped aside. Another clip replaced the gala feed. This one from a low-income neighborhood in Detroit. Cracked sidewalks, no lighting, empty buildings. The caption beneath the frame read, Arliston Development Site. Abandoned. Contract paid. Their collapse is inevitable, she said. The documents have already been submitted to the DOJ. But that's not why I brought you here. Wakefield laughed, bitter and low. You brought the Senate to its knees to make a point? She looked at him calmly. No. I brought the Senate here to decide what happens next. She pressed a button on her remote. A third screen rose behind her, this time displaying a map. Highlighted regions in red, public infrastructure zones, mostly black and brown communities, areas neglected under decades of systemic bias and economic rot. I propose a national audit, she said. A full-scale investigation of all public-private urban redevelopment contracts issued in the last 15 years, starting with projects approved through this committee. Gasps rippled. Mahoney's fingers clenched around her pen. Wakefield barked a laugh. You want to set fire to half the country's budget? No, Amira replied. I want to reallocate it. She tapped again. The map shifted. Red became green, regions marked for pilot restoration, sustainable housing, STEM education hubs, community solar grids, all modeled on a system Amira's team had already beta tested in Newark. Self-sustaining, locally governed, federally supported. Mahoney leaned forward. What's the price tag? Amira met her gaze. 7% less than what Arliston Development stole. Wakefield raised a hand. And you expect this committee to approve that? I expect you to remember that your re-election campaigns will be asking black voters for turnout in 15 months. And that footage from the gala has been watched over 200 million times. She let that hang. I expect you to realize the old game is collapsing, and I'm offering you a new one with rules. Mahoney stared at her for a long time. Then finally, we'll need draft legislation, oversight framework, budget tiers. It's already written, Amira said. You'll find copies in your folders, line-by-line accountability, third-party ethics reviews, quarterly public audits. I've already cleared the compliance mechanisms with Treasury. No one spoke. She closed the screen behind her, gathered her documents with practiced calm. As she reached the door, Wakefield called out, You're not elected, Langston. No one gave you this authority. Amira paused, then turned back. They didn't give it, she said. They left it lying in plain sight. Outside, reporters had begun to gather, but she walked past them, past the questions, past the cameras, back to the waiting Cadillac and the city that kept pretending not to watch. Inside the car, her assistant was already waiting, a young woman in her 20s, crisp and calm. They approved the framework, she said. Even Wakefield. Amira nodded. Tell legal to move forward with the minority contractor transition plan. The assistant hesitated. They're going to come for you. Harder now. I'm counting on it. The car turned down Constitution Avenue. Traffic thickened. Lights flickered through tinted glass, the Capitol dome rising like a monument to both ideals and excuses. Amira did not look at it. She looked at the folder in her lap. The cover read, Operation Threshold, Phase 2. Inside, names, companies, people, some powerful, some protected, all complicit. She closed the folder and leaned back. Above her, the clouds thickened like smoke gathering before a storm. The restaurant sat at the edge of the Anacostia River, tucked behind a warehouse district the city forgot. No valet, no sign. Just a red door and a single security camera mounted beneath an unlit lamp. It opened at night. Only at night. Only for one name. Langston. Amira entered without knocking. Inside, the air smelled of cardamom and grilled trout. Booths lined the walls, each hidden by thick velvet drapes. No music, just the faint hum of whispered negotiations and silverware. A hostess appeared wordlessly. She led Amira toward the back, past congressmen, CEOs, diplomats pretending to be ghosts. No one acknowledged her. That was the point. At the final booth, a man waited. Dark suit, no tie, watch face down, posture like a soldier who had learned long ago to listen more than speak. His name was Graham Delaney. He used to be a lobbyist. Now he handled what came after legislation passed and the cameras left. Amira sat across from him. He poured tea into 2 small glasses, mint and citrus. Steam drifted between them like a soft veil. You sent for me, he said. She did not answer immediately. She waited until the tea cooled. Then, you remember Arliston? Graham sipped. They're finished. They're unraveling, she corrected. There's a difference. He nodded once, conceding. She placed a folder on the table. It was thick, bound in red cord. Graham raised an eyebrow. This is? Their replacement. He unwrapped it carefully. Inside, 15 pages of organizational charts, shell corporations, capital flows, dormant development sites in Cleveland, Gary, Oakland, and Jackson. All real, all legal, all built to take Arlston's place, with the right names behind them. You built a shadow company? I built a foundation, she said. From the ground up, minority-led. Union integrated, environmentally regulated. They're ready. They just need the room to grow. Graham scanned the first 3 pages in silence. When he looked up, his expression was unreadable. This is fast. It had to be. People are going to call it a power grab. Amira met his eyes. It is, but not the kind they're used to. He closed the folder gently. You want my help laundering the transition. I want your help selling it, not to investors, to gatekeepers, to regulators, to the men who think economic stability only looks like what they already know. He ran a hand through his hair. The lines around his eyes deepened. You want me to convince white capital to trust black ownership. She didn't flinch. Yes. That's the long game. It's the only game. He looked at her then, really looked at her. You're not asking for a favor, he said slowly. You're offering me a legacy. Amira didn't smile. I'm offering you relevance. Outside, a freight train rumbled in the distance. The windows trembled slightly. Graham exhaled like a man who had just remembered the stakes of history. He reached for his tea again. When do we start? 2 days. I want the first shift of contractors deployed by next week. That fast? News moves fast. So must we. He paused, fingers resting on the rim of the glass. They'll come for you. They already have. No, I mean harder. When you start shifting capital flows, you're not just rebalancing equity. You're threatening inheritance. You're redrawing bloodlines. Amira leaned forward. Good. They left through different exits. That was always the rule. Back in the car, Ray glanced at her through the mirror. All done? For tonight. You have a message, he said, from someone named Darnell McCrae. Amira's body stilled. Ray noticed, but didn't comment. Who gave him this number? Ray shrugged. He called your secure line, knew the protocol code. Put him through. A moment passed, then the voice came, rougher than memory, familiar like a scar. Didn't think you'd take the call. I almost didn't. A pause. I saw the footage, he said. Didn't know it had gotten that bad. It's always been that bad. Another silence. I heard what you're building, he said. People are talking. They always talk. Yeah, but this time they're listening too. Amira looked out the window. A red light held them at a deserted intersection. A paper cup rolled across the asphalt like wind didn't care for dignity. Why are you calling? Because I want in. Amira didn't speak. Not for credit, not for ego. His voice caught. I built half the pipeline projects they buried. I know how they stole. I know where the bodies are. She didn't interrupt. I thought silence bought me safety, he said. But watching them treat you like nothing, I remembered why we started in the first place. Another light passed. Stillness filled the cabin. I can be useful, he added quietly. I know. He waited. Then, so? Amira closed her eyes briefly, then opened them. Come to the 10th Street office, tomorrow at 7. No entourage, no press. Darnell exhaled like a man who had just been given a name after years of being a shadow. Thank you. She ended the call. Ray drove in silence. You trust him? He asked. No. Ray nodded. But you'll use him. I'll test him, she said. The car rolled on, past empty storefronts, past corners where opportunity had been buried beneath debt and denial. Amira looked ahead. She didn't want revenge. She wanted infrastructure. The 10th floor office on 10th Street had no windows. It was deliberate. Amira stood at the center of the room, sleeves rolled, eyes sharp beneath the overhead fluorescence. Concrete walls, no paintings. Just 2 whiteboards scrawled with flowcharts and names. Darnell McCrae stood across from her, hands in pockets, jaw tight. You're early, she said. I wanted to see if it was real. It is. He looked around the space like it might collapse beneath the weight of what it represented. No mahogany, he muttered. No glass conference tables. Not exactly what I expected. Amira turned back to the board. That's the point. He crossed the room slowly, eyeing the names written in red. Government agencies, real estate brokers, foundation heads, a few he knew well, a few he'd been paid to protect. You kept files on everyone. I don't keep files, she said. I keep patterns. Darnell leaned against the edge of the table. You know they think you're playing too clean. She turned toward him. Who? Everyone outside this room. You spoke to them? I listen. He paused. They say you're too precise, too restrained. They want fireworks, arrests, headlines. I'm not building a bonfire, Amira said. I'm building scaffolding. He studied her. You really believe you can replace the entire structure without tearing it down? Her eyes didn't flinch. I believe erosion is more permanent than demolition. Darnell nodded slowly, but something in his posture shifted. Less conviction, more caution. I came here because I believe in what you're doing, he said. But belief doesn't equal blind loyalty. I'm not asking for loyalty. Good, he said, because I brought something. He reached into his coat and pulled out a manila folder, thick with printed memos and annotated reports. He slid it toward her without fanfare. What is it? Proof that the housing authority in Baton Rouge is laundering federal grants through a ghost contractor linked to the Devereaux Group. Amira flipped the folder open. Her eyes scanned quickly. Budget line discrepancies. Dates that didn't match. Signatures from the same hand under different names. This is verified? Triple sourced. She looked up. This is good work. Darnell leaned in slightly. Then use it. Publicly. Name them. Bury them. Amira didn't respond right away. Instead, she walked to the whiteboard and wrote one word beneath the name, Devereaux. Delay. Darnell frowned. What are you doing? Waiting. For what? For the right leverage. His voice rose slightly. We have proof. We have a window. What more do you need? Amira capped the marker and turned toward him. If we move too early, they'll scapegoat mid-level players, shuffle leadership, and spin it as reform. Nothing changes. No one bleeds. And if we wait? Their arrogance will widen the damage, and then we expose them, not just as corrupt, but as incompetent. Darnell shook his head. You're playing chess with people's lives. I'm protecting the endgame. He stood up straight. A beat of silence between them. You ever wonder what it costs to always be the smartest person in the room? No, she said softly. But I know exactly what it pays. A knock interrupted them. Her assistant poked her head in. We have company. Amira nodded. Send them in. Two people entered. A woman in her 50s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. A man in a blue windbreaker carrying a canvas case. Union organizers, labor vets, people who remembered what betrayal smelled like. Amira introduced them with only first names, Carla and Hector. They've agreed to audit all the subcontractor bids moving through our pilot sites, she said. No contracts get signed without their union rep present. Darnell arched a brow. That's going to slow things down. Amira didn't look at him. It's going to make things unbreakable. Carla opened her folder. We've already flagged 7 bid packages with racial imbalance issues. 3 have nepotism ties to state council members. 1's a known union buster. Hector added, and 1 is connected to a consulting firm you used 3 years ago. Amira nodded. Then remove them. Darnell stepped forward. Even if it costs momentum? Especially then. The room settled into a rhythm. Carla laid out criteria. Hector mapped pressure points. Amira listened, adjusted, nodded only when necessary. Darnell stayed quiet, watching the way she orchestrated the room without ever raising her voice. When the union reps left, Amira turned back to him. Still want in? He didn't answer right away. I want in, he said, but not if this turns into a martyrdom campaign. It won't. Because if you fall, I won't. She walked to the far wall and clicked on a digital screen. A map appeared, not of geography, but of influence. Nodes, threads, contracts, media flows, political donations, whistleblowers, future candidates, all connected in a latticework of strategy. This isn't about me, she said. It never was. Darnell stared at the map. You built this alone? No, Amira said. I built it quietly. He stepped closer. What do you want me to do? She pointed to a cluster near the southern corridor, small but unstable. There's a contractor in Atlanta bidding under 5 different shell names, she said. Find out who's behind them. Trace the money. If they're clean, we leave them. If they're dirty, we absorb them. He looked at her. And if they fight back? Her voice was steady. then we let them know the days of buying silence are over. The forum was standing room only, a converted theater in southeast D.C., repurposed as a civic hall. Rows of folding chairs filled with union leaders, city planners, educators, and a few journalists pretending to be invisible. The stage bore no banners, just a single chair, a microphone, and the soft light of questions no one wanted to ask. Amira entered from stage right. No escort, no speech. She sat, adjusted the mic, and waited. The silence stretched. Then the moderator cleared his throat. "We'll begin with a prepared statement." "I don't have one," Amira said calmly. "Let's just talk." A murmur ran through the audience. Some leaned forward. Others folded their arms. The first question came from a woman in a hijab, holding a legal pad filled with neat handwriting. "How do you define accountability when you operate in the shadows?" Amira didn't flinch. "I define it by who benefits when the work is done." A man in a high-visibility vest stood next. "Is it true you shut down the Wilmington project because the contractor made a joke in a private email?" Amira leaned in slightly. "He used the phrase urban compliance theater to describe our workforce diversity requirement. And yes, I canceled the contract." Someone in the back clapped. Someone else muttered witch hunt under their breath. The moderator tried to move to the next hand, but a new voice interrupted from the side aisle. Deep, commanding, familiar. "Mind if I ask a question, Ms. Langston?" Heads turned. Councilman Royce Hale stepped into the light. Tall, black, mid-50s, veteran of local politics and national disappointments. He wore the kind of suit that looked like it had once fit better, and the expression of a man with a long memory. Amira didn't smile. "Go ahead." Royce moved closer, but did not ascend the stage. He wanted to level the ground first. "I remember when you were the one whispering to senators in back rooms," he said. "When you said change had to come from within." "I still believe that," she replied. "Then why does it feel like you've built a kingdom instead of a coalition?" Amira didn't answer immediately. Royce continued. "I read the articles. I see the headlines. Everyone's calling you a reformer. But what I see is someone who answers to no one, who pulls strings and cancels livelihoods with a phone call." She let him finish. Then she spoke, low and even. "You built coalitions, Royce, for 30 years, and you got benches in parks named after you. Meanwhile, I've built enforcement mechanisms, and I'm getting generational wealth redirected." The room shifted, uncertain whether to cheer or hold its breath. Royce narrowed his eyes. "Is that what you call it? Strategy?" "No," she said. "I call it correction." He stepped closer. "Where's the oversight? Who checks you?" "You do," Amira replied. "Right now. That's why I showed up." Royce crossed his arms. "And if I told you I plan to introduce a resolution tomorrow, demanding an inquiry into your contracting process, public hearings, testimony, under oath?" Amira didn't blink. "Then I'd clear my calendar." A quiet hush fell. Royce studied her face, looking for arrogance, for fear. He found neither. "What happened to the girl who used to write letters to editors instead of executive orders?" he asked. Amira's voice dropped almost to a whisper. She realized no one reads the letters, but they obey the contracts. Royce held her gaze a moment longer. Then, finally, he nodded once. "I'll still introduce the resolution." "You should." He turned to leave, but paused. "One more thing," he said. "You're not wrong, but you're not untouchable either. Don't forget that." She didn't. After the forum, Amira walked the side alley alone. Ray waited in the car down the block. Before she reached it, a figure stepped out from the shadows. Not a threat, a warning. "You're making noise," said the woman. Mid-30s, sharp jawline. Blazer without a badge, no introduction. Amira nodded. That was the idea. They're not pleased. Define they. You know who. Amira exhaled. Tell them I'm not looking for their approval. They're not offering that. They're offering consequence. Amira met her eyes. Then tell them to send someone with a name next time. The woman didn't flinch. You've got 2 weeks. After that, the gloves come off. Amira didn't move. You think they haven't lost to bigger men than me? The woman shook her head. You're not a man. That's why they're afraid. She disappeared down the alley. Amira stood still for a long moment, then turned, walked back to the car. Ray opened the door. That was intense, he said. Which part? All of it. He handed her a tablet. You need to see this. She scanned the screen. A leak. Internal documents. Devereaux Group. Baton Rouge. Contracts. Scandal. Someone had gone public before she was ready. Do we know the source? Ray hesitated. No, but it has your name all over it. She didn't answer, because she already knew. Darnell. It was raining the night Amira returned to Baton Rouge. Not the cinematic kind, not thunder and flash, just a long, steady drizzle that soaked through ambition and made silence louder. The tarmac gleamed under halogen floodlights. Her motorcade didn't exist tonight. No press, no flags, just a single black sedan pulling off a service runway and disappearing down a back road. Ray stayed behind the wheel. You sure about this? He asked. I'm already here. Downtown was half empty. Most windows shuttered. A few flickered with the blue glow of cable news anchors reading her name aloud. Her photo, her past, her power, and her leak. The Devereaux documents had detonated across the country. Her name wasn't in the headlines, but it was in every boardroom, every whisper. The exposure was clean, precise, everything she would have done. Just not yet. And that was the point. Ray parked in front of an old warehouse. She got out alone. The steel door creaked open before she touched it. Darnell stood inside, hands in his coat pockets. His expression was somewhere between apology and defense. You came, he said. Amira stepped into the room. Dust hung in the air like memory. You leaked it. I did. You used my name. I used your standard. Silence. He stepped forward, voice low. You were waiting for the perfect moment. I get that. But sometimes there's no perfect. Just now. She glanced around the room. It had once been a food co-op, then a campaign headquarters. Now it held nothing but ghosts. I brought you into this to help build, she said. I did. No, you undermined the process. I accelerated it. Amira didn't raise her voice. That was never her style. You burned a bridge I was preparing to repurpose. Darnell stepped closer. I made sure the fire was contained. It exposed them. It didn't touch you. But it touched the order. He didn't respond. Amira walked past him. The floorboards creaked beneath her boots. In the back of the room, a faded mural still clung to the brick. Brown hands lifting a broken house from its foundation. You still think this is about exposing rot, she said. I've been building a new structure. Quietly. Brick by brick. He moved to stand beside her. His voice softened. And what happens when the old building collapses before yours is ready? I keep building. A long pause. Darnell nodded slowly. Then you don't need me anymore. Amira turned to him. I never needed you. I invited you. He swallowed hard. So this is it? No, she said. This is clarity. She handed him a sealed envelope. Inside, a letter of disassociation, a termination of security clearance, and a quiet financial severance. No drama, no disgrace, just a door gently closing. He took it without a word. "Be careful," she said. "I always was. That's what worries me." She left him there, not out of spite, but because some choices once made should not be explained. Back in the car, Ray didn't ask questions. He just started the engine. Outside, the rain continued. Gentle, relentless, like something trying to wash a city clean, but never quite succeeding. They drove in silence for a few minutes. Then Ray spoke. "You should see this." He handed her a tablet. A video was trending. A woman named Carla, the union rep, speaking outside a job site in Detroit. Behind her stood dozens of workers in hard hats, raising signs that bore no logos, only 3 words. "We back Langston." The media hadn't expected it, but the streets had. Amira scrolled further. Grassroots organizers, young city planners, black women in STEM programs citing her in opening speeches, teachers quoting her language of scaffolding, not fire. Then came the endorsements. Not from donors, but from neighborhoods. Not from parties, but from precincts. Not from politics, but from people. Her strategy, deliberate, disciplined, quiet, had taken root. Ray glanced at her through the mirror. "Still want silence?" Amira looked out the window. The rain had slowed. The street lamps cast long reflections across puddles like veins under the skin of a living thing. She didn't smile, but something eased in her posture. "No," she said. "Now we speak." That night, she returned to the 10th Street office alone. She turned on the lights, removed her coat, sat at the center table. She opened her portfolio. Inside, a speech. She had written it months ago, never intending to read it. But maybe it wasn't for the public. Maybe it was for the people still choosing between letters to editors and executive orders, between silence and construction. Her fingers moved across the page, line by line, word by word, editing not for polish, but for truth. When she finished, she folded it once, slipped it into a fresh envelope, and wrote a single name on the front. Nia. Her daughter would understand one day, not just what her mother had done, but how. The city outside continued to hum. Somewhere, new contracts were being negotiated. Power was realigning, structures bending, names being remembered or erased. And in the center of it all, one woman remained seated, not above the people, not behind them, but at the foundation. Amira Langston had not taken revenge. She had taken root.